Hi, I'm Paul Seal from codeshare.co.uk. Today I'm going to start a new course following on from my Umbraco course, how to build a site in Umbraco. This course is going to be about how to add comments to your Umbraco site. So the way this will work is that it can work with any content page in Umbraco. You'll be able to add the comments form and list onto any page, and you'll be able to get comments for those, and it will be able to render the comments when people view the page, and they'll appear within the comments section. First off, just to say that on my website at the moment I just use Disqus, which is a free comments engine, and it allows you to manage them separately on another site, and it picks up spam and things like that. So this doesn't pick up spam and things like that. This is just all about how to add comments onto a page. Later on in the series we might look at how you can do things to prevent spam, but for now we're just going to create something which looks like this. So let's say if we just add a comment on here. So this is one of my posts on my dev site. So at the bottom I've put a comments form now, and then so hello, thank you for this, and then submit message, and what you'll see is that submits it straight away and puts it in the comments list. And if we refresh the page, that's there, it's stored in the database. So that's what this course is going to be all about. So let's have a look at how I've done that on my dev version of my CodeShare site by doing it on my mother-in-law's website, which if you followed my previous course you'll be familiar with. So I'm going to add it to this site, and again, just to reiterate, this can be added to any Umbraco site. So let's get started then. So the first thing we have to do is we need somewhere to store these comments. So we're going to store them in the comments table. So we need to create a table, and I've created one already. I've just done it. There's nothing in there at the moment. So this is on the database for my mother-in-law's website. So I've got a table. It's got an ID column, so that's just the individual unique ID for each comment. The name of the person who left the comment, the message in the comment, the content ID, so this is the ID which the comment relates to, and that is how you can filter it. So you can have the comments per page. So you put the ID in for the page, well, it just picks it up, you don't put it in. So when I go, like on my codeshare.co.uk, like this 10 golden rules post, that's got comments. But if I go to what is clean code and have a look, yep, there was a test comment added there, and then we can just submit another comment and add that there. So the different comments per page. Just to prove that, let's try and get one which hasn't got any comments yet. So no comments there, and then submit a message. There you go, you see, so it's per page, and if I refresh the page, it's stayed. So going back to the database, then I've also got the date created and the date last updated. So what I might do later on in this little mini course is look at how we can administer these comments as an admin. I'm not really looking for people to edit their own comments. I mean, we could add that later on, but I'm going to be looking just to edit the comments as an admin, maybe just to add some sort of remove feature or something like that. So yeah, we'll look at that later on. So we've got our table. Again, it's an ID int. If you're watching this, following along, just pause this and create the table yourself using the same. Now you might want to extend the size of the message. It's up to you how you want to do that. I've just done it at 200 characters for now. Right, so we've got the table. Now we need to interact with that table. So let me just check. I might have started with something on this. No, I haven't. That's good. So in order to interact with it, what I'm going to use is a link to SQL. I know it's quite old. There's all sorts of ways. Umbraco's got its own way of using POCOs, plain old class objects, but in a way to create read, update and delete records from the database. I don't like the way that it's done in Umbraco. I'm not dissing it or anything, it's just that I prefer link to SQL. Entity Framework is another one, that one's quite good as well, but you get a lot of bloat with that. So I don't want all the extras that comes with Entity Framework. So I want something quite light and easy to use. So that's why I use link to SQL. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a data access layer. So this is the it's going to be a project within my solution that is the one that gets the data. And by using it this way, you could swap it out for something else if you wanted to. So I'm going to add a new project, and I'm going to call it the same name as the project, Fiona Whitfield Art, but I'm going to do .dal for data access layer. And this is going to be a C# class library .NET Framework 452, because that's the same version that I'm already using. Oh, already exists. Let me just have a look at that then. I don't know why that already exists when it's... Let me refresh this. I'm wondering why that already does exist. It could be that I was playing with this and maybe I've created it before. So let's just have a look. All right, so yeah, so we've got a folder here. I'm just going to delete this. So we don't need that in there. It's not even associated with the solution anymore. So I wonder if I can reload this. Well, let's just try again. So add folder. Add new project, Fiona Whitfield Art .dal. Hopefully it's not there. If we still have this problem, what we can do is we can look at the solution file and remove it ourselves. So it's not a problem, and also it's good in case other people come across this problem as well. Right, so it hasn't caused us any problems that time. So first thing we want to do is create a class called DB context. Yeah, do I want to rename that elsewhere? Now this DB context, this is going to know about what the connection string is to the database and what the tables are that we're using in this database. So I'm going to look back at the one that I did on CodeShare and go into there. So let's just copy this and I'll talk you through it. So we've got system.data.link, so that's the reference that we need to use in order to use this link to SQL. And we also want to use system.web configuration because we are getting the connection string from the web config. So we need to add references for them first of all. So I'm going to do that. So add reference, and they're both in the assemblies section. So system.data.link and system.web I also need to add, and also because I'm using configuration for the connection string thing, I think I need system.configuration as well. So I'll click on that. So I've added all three of those missing references. So it's happy with that. So then we've got a DB context and it's going to inherit from the system data link data context. So that's okay. And now what I need to do is create a model for the comment record. So this FA record is for a different table that I created on CodeShare. That was for my Font Awesome search tool that I created. So if you're interested, have a look on codeshare.co.uk tools. If you look in the tools menu, let me just show you actually. Font Awesome icon search tool. That was just I was just interested in doing this and I just wanted to have a go anyway, so I was playing about. Anyway, going back onto topic, so let's create ourselves a model. Now what I want to do is create it in the library actually no, it's going to be in the DAL project. So in this new project we created, I'm going to add a folder. I'm going to call it models, and then inside there I'm going to add a class, and I'm going to call this class comment.cs. And in CodeShare I've already created this. Comment record I've actually called it. So if I go back to here, in here I'm just going to paste this in and just update the namespace. Right, so we've got that. Now this, I will talk about this, but I want to just finish off with DB context. So now it should be happy with this in a moment. So I'm just going to do a build and see if it resolves that problem with the models. So it couldn't find the namespace for models. So I wonder why that is. Even though I've created it, oh right, that's because the namespace is wrong. So I need this to be Fiona Whitfield art.dal. So yeah, just always look out for that. If you're copying from my articles, you might find that you've got CodeShare in the namespace. Just update it to your project's namespace and that should solve that. So Fiona Whitfield art.dal, and then we've got the table. So there's one table in this at the moment. I've called that comment records. I'm getting the connection string. That should be the same for you if you're using Umbraco and you've not changed the connection string name. So that is what we call DB context. That gets that. And then there's another protected method. I've not had to do anything with that. I'm not sure exactly what that does, and I've never needed to know what that does, but I've always needed to have it on, I think. I think it might be because I'm implemented data context. Anyway, so let's go on to the comment record. So I'm just going to rename this to be consistent with the actual name of the class. So the comment record, we've got a table called TBL comments. That has to match up with the table name that I've created in the database. Then I've got the columns that are in there. So they match up exactly the same. So where you've got int, what you should also know about this table is that when I created these fields, on the ID, I went to identity specification and I said yes. And I left that to be increment 1, seed 1. So you should do the same as well, and also note that it's a primary key. So this class needs to know those things as well. So I've said int identity and it's not allowed to be null. The name on the database for that column is ID, lowercase. It is primary key and it is database generated. That's the auto increment part. Then I've got the name of the person and varchar 50. The message that they can enter, I've got that as 200. And I've not actually said not null. Really, I should put these as not null. Should specify null or not null, so whether it can allow nulls or not. Then we've got the content ID and the date created and date last updated, and I've made the date last updated be a nullable date time by using the question mark at the end, and I've said it can be null by just having date time space null. These match up to the column names, so if you do the same, again just pause it, copy this out yourself. I might put this into a blog post at some point, but then again I might not. Just depends how much time I have and whether I've moved on to other projects. But yeah, you can always pause this, and I always think it's good to type these out yourself rather than copy paste, because I don't think you learn as much when you do it that way. Right, so we'll give it a build, just see if it complains. So it doesn't complain, it succeeded with that build. So now we have our context and we have our record. So let's have a look back on CodeShare at this. Is there anything else we need? It doesn't look like there's anything else we need. So that's really good. So now we can use this for getting our, sorry, let me just go back to Fiona Whitfield. Yeah, we can use this for getting data out of our database. But in order to do that, we need to write some helper methods. So I've got a helper class on codeshare.co.uk. I've created a class called comments helper. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it into Fiona Whitfield Art. So in a separate library, Fiona Whitfield Art.library, I'm going to create a class called comment helper. I'm just going to make sure it's comment and not comments. Oh, it is comments. So I'm going to rename it to comments. And I'm going to paste the code in, and again I'm going to make sure that I've got the right namespace. Okay, so that's done. The other problem here, what this is complaining about, is it's looking for codeshare.dal.models, so we can change that to be Fiona Whitfield Art.dal.models, and it's also looking for codeshare.library.models. So let's see what the problem is here. So I'm going to go back to my model, Fiona Whitfield Art.dal.models. That should be right. And then codeshare.library.models. That should be Fiona Whitfield Art.library.models. So let's see what the problem is. So it doesn't like it. So why doesn't it like it? Well, that's because in this class, this project, the library project, I don't have a reference to this new project that I created, the DAL. So I'm going to tick that. So I've gone to add reference and then projects, and in the solution I've ticked Fiona Whitfield Art.dal. Now that should resolve that issue that it was having. Couldn't find that. That's great. And let's move on to the next problem. It's all about problems. So the type table is defined in an assembly that's not referenced. So we need to add system data link on this project as well, this Fiona Whitfield Art.library. So let's add that reference as well. So if I could scroll down, find that within Assembly's framework. Okay. Now that's resolved that issue. And then we have one final issue, and that's it. Well, let's just check if it's one final issue. So yeah, they're both complaining about the same thing, and that's the comment view model. So I need to create a model which will be used on the form when you're entering a comment. So let's go on to codeshare.co.uk's code and add that. So that will be in the CodeShare library models comment view model. Here we go. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to create it in the models folder here. Add a class, call it comment view model. Okay. Right, let me just check that that's in the right place. So this is in the library, right. And what it's also complaining about is this system component model.data annotations isn't referenced. So what I can do in this library that I already had set up, where I've just created this model class, I'm going to add a reference to that. And that will be, which one is that? Yeah, system.component model. Oh yeah, where does that go again? Sorry, am I mumbling under my breath? System component model data annotations. That should resolve that problem, which will also resolve these problems here. So I know I've skipped through, I didn't go through the comments helper. I'll go back to the comments helper. I just wanted to explain to you about this view model as it's quite short, and then we can go back to that. So this comment view model is just literally a name, a message, and the content ID, and we use that on the form when we're creating a comment. It's as simple as that. We're using the data annotations to be able to force it to be required. So both fields are required and the content ID. We're forcing a max length of 50 and 200 just to help with the database, as they are 50 or 200 characters long. And there's not much else to it other than that. So let's go back to the comments helper. So the main helper methods on here is the create method. So let's just go back here. So we've got the namespace of FionaWhitfield.art.library.helpers, create the class comments helper. It's got an empty constructor, and then these are methods of this object when you've instantiated it. So create is, I'm using some log4net just in case I have any errors. I'm just logging those errors on there. And so this method, it tries to use the link to SQL. So it's using the database context. It creates itself a record, which is inside the DAL project. So the comment record model. And it sets the values to be what it gets from the view model. So that will be the name, the message, and the content ID. And the date created, it automatically updates it to now, and last updated it leaves as null. Just so that maybe later down the line I might want to do something in brackets to say edited. So I'll look to see if that's null or not. And then we've got the command here to say the database, this comment records table, on submit I want you to insert this record, and then after that line it submits the changes, and then I can get back the ID from that record that was created. So I return that. So you don't have to use the result of this, but basically on the next episode I'll show you the controller, and that one will call this method and it will return the ID. If we want it to, we can use that ID. So that's how we're creating the comment, and this is the link to SQL that you need for that creating of the record. And I've got two separate models. So I've got the record, so that's the reading of the data from the database, and also obviously we're using it for writing too, but I'm separating that from the actual view model as well. Just in case you did want to change things and have it going into a database differently, you would still have the view model working fine. The view model doesn't need to know about all the table attributes and everything like that. It's in here where we assign what means what. So you could use this with a different database engine, and the other aspects of it will be fine. It's just the data access layer that would change. So that's why I'm doing it this way. So that was the create. Then we have a get by ID. This will get an individual comment. Again, using link to SQL. So we go comment record, and it's quite nice. It's similar with this link to SQL. It's similar to SQL in that you are saying from this table where the ID is equal to the ID passed in here. And then I also just do a dot first or default, because I'm just after one record of this where the ID matches. And obviously as the ID is unique anyway, we don't have to worry about being more than one, but I'll just always use that first or default there, and then return the record, and that returns that back. So whenever we want to use just an individual comment, I'm not currently using that on my CodeShare example. What I am using though is the get by content ID. So this method here, this again using the database context, it wants a list of records. So from the comment records table, where the content ID matches the one passed in here, return it back as a list basically. So that's how we can render the comments. And then we've got one here for update. So this one, I'm saying get the record where it matches the ID that was on the model. And I want it to set the name to be what was on the model passed in, the message what was on the model passed in, and the last updated date to be now. And then you do submit changes. So that's the update method. And then I've also done a delete method, so I'm not using it yet, but I might need to use it later. So again, similar sort of pattern, using the database context, get the record by the ID, and then on submit of changes, I want it to delete this record. And it's simple as that really. So that's my helper method for using link to SQL. So that's what this episode was all about really. First of all, was just to show you what we'll be building and get you set up with the link to SQL part. So after this, you'll be able to create, you'll basically have all of the communication with the database. I'll just go back through each of them slowly, so you can pause the screen if you want to, if you're following along and copying. So I'll go back to the beginning. So we've got the database context, then we've got the model, then we've got the comment view model, and then we've got the comments helper. So let's just scroll down these. I'm just doing this so you could pause it on these, so you can actually see all of the code. So yeah, these methods basically is how you do a CRUD application using link to SQL. Obviously there are other things like inner and outer joins and things like that, but for this purpose we don't need to go that far into detail. So in the next episode I'll be looking at showing you how to start using that with the controller and the views, and hopefully we'll move on with this and start doing it so you can get towards putting messages on your content pages with an Umbraco. And also it's using an Ajax form as well, so we'll be doing that, we'll be addressing that while we do it. So thanks for watching, I hope you liked the video. If you did like it, please click like, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to comment and share with others as well. And I will see you on the next episode when we take this further. Thanks for watching, bye.